Okay, this is the video to show you how to solve equations, but using Desmos. So originally we did this by doing opposites, by like instead of adding 7, we'd subtract 7 from both sides. Now today we're just going to use Desmos for that. So literally for these questions, it's literally as easy as just typing in the question. So whatever the question is, type in the question. And what we're looking for is actually this vertical line here, and we're looking for where does it cross the x-axis. So it crosses at 7, and that means the answer to this question would be, I gave multiple choice answers here, just 7. Now you could easily check that answer by substituting back. 9 times 7 is 63. Add 7 does indeed give you 70. So they're pretty easy to check as well. Now, when we move on to the next question, this time we're solving for y. Now, this is kind of the opposite of what we did the other day. We want every question to be in terms of x. So if it doesn't say x, all we're going to do is we're going to change the question so that it does say x. And then same thing, we look for the vertical line, and then we just look where does it pass through. So -4, and as you can see here, that would be one of the multiple choice answers. So as you'll notice, this is significantly quicker than when we originally did this, and we had to sort of write questions out, we had to go down the page. Now we're just going to copy out the question, and we're going to look for the answer. Now this one actually is a decimal, 6.5. So if we're not sure what that is, we could always type in 6.5 and hit the fraction button on the side here, and it will actually change it for us. Sometimes that doesn't always work perfectly, so sometimes it's better just to do 13 divided by 2 and check that you do get the correct answer here. And I guess for your multiple choice answers, just go through one at a time and make sure does it give you the answer of 6.5. And eventually you'll come to the right answer. This one here, when we've got our fractions, just remember that you want to push the divide button first. So there we go. So I'm going to do 2 over 3. I'm going to push the right arrow. I'm not going to use t though. I'm going to use x, which I'm going to use for every question when I'm solving equations. And this time it doesn't look like there's an answer here. So sometimes we might just have to zoom out a little bit until we do see the answer. And this time you can clearly see that the answer is 18. So this one, we've actually got a fraction equals to a number, and I've got my multiple choice answers here. So I'm going to go back to the other side, and I'm going to type in this question. So n plus 3, all divided by 5. So let me get rid of all these now. I'm going to push my divide button, or you can push the slash symbol, and it will actually give you that first. It said n minus 3 for this question, I think. Let me just go back and check. N plus 3. So I'm not going to use n, I'm going to use x. So I got x plus 3 divided by 5. And let me just check what it equals. It equals 10. So as long as I type in my x, I'm just looking for where it crosses. Sometimes, like I say, you might have to zoom out a little bit. This time it says 47, and you can see that 47 was indeed one of the answers. So for that first section on two-step equations and one-step equations, they're very easy. Just type in the question. Just make sure you're using x, and just make sure you zoom out to find the answer. Solve the following equation. So you would do these exactly the same for three-step equations. You just put x in for z, and then just type in the question exactly the same. Now for these ones here, the infinite solution or the no solution, then we've actually got to work a little bit harder for these ones. So, unfortunately, I forgot to add in the Desmos calculator for this one. So I'm going to do like you might have to do. Copy out the question on paper. And then we're going to find a Desmos calculator. And we're going to type in the question. So this one did say x. So I can type it in just like it looks. 4x plus 2 equals 4. 3 plus 6x. And this time I can zoom out as much as I like, but I'm actually not going to find the answer at all. And the reason I'm not going to find the answer is it's either no solution or infinite solutions. So on questions where that happens, what we're actually going to do is we're going to type each side of the equal sign on a different part of the question. So this was the left-hand side of the equal sign, and I'm going to put y equals to that one. And for this question here on the right hand side, I'm also going to put y equals 2. Now, what you might have noticed here is these were actually exactly the same line. And we use this in exactly the same way we do systems of equations. So if we see exactly the same line, we're going to say infinite solutions. If we see lines that are parallel, we're going to say that it's no solution. So for that question, the first one that we had here, this one was actually, as it was the same, infinite solutions. So just remember, if you type this in and you don't see a vertical line here, you know that it's either no solutions and infinite solutions. You don't want to guess, so you just put y equals this part, and on the second line you put y equals this one, and then you just check to see, is it the same line, infinite, or is it parallel lines, no solution. Now, it probably won't be a big surprise to you that this one is probably therefore going to be no solution, but we will just go ahead and check. Once again, I wrote down the problem. So once I get to my Desmos calculator, oops, I can just go ahead and type them in. So I'm going to clear my last questions out, and then I'm going to type in my new questions. Once again, they were both in terms of x, so I didn't have to remember that. Oops, equals 8 times 3 plus 5x. And I don't see the line, the vertical line, so you can zoom out, and you're not going to find it because once again it's either going to be infinite or no solution. So I'll click the home and go back. So I will type in the 8 parentheses 3 plus 5x on the second line, and I will type y equals 4x, 4 times 10x plus 5 on the top line. And this time you can actually see, oops, perhaps I'll zoom the other way this time. You can see that these lines do not cross, but you can also see that they're parallel lines. So this one would be an example of no solution, just like when we did our systems of equations. So that one, no solution. So that's a good way of checking for those special cases. Proportions, you can go ahead and do these ones. It reminds you here, push the divide key straight away so you can enter the fraction. Also, if I'm doing this question, I'm not going to be putting b, I'm going to be putting x, otherwise the question won't work. So let me go back to that next slide because I know there's a Desmos calculator there. And for proportions questions, it's kind of unusual if you do get a no solution. So push the divide straight away. So instead of b minus 2, I'm going to put x minus 2. And I'm going to put equals, and then I'm going to push the divide symbol again to get my second fraction. Instead of b plus 4, I'm going to plus x plus 4. And on the bottom it said 5. And once again, I might just have to zoom out. You might initially think it's one of those special ones, but you can see that the answer is 11 here, and that works pretty nicely. Now, the only real word problem on this one was the questions when we did perimeter. So perimeter is when we add all the sides together. So on my sides here, I've got 2x plus 1, and I got 5x plus 2. Now, don't forget, though, this side over here is also 2x plus 1, and this side at the top is also 5x plus 2. So if I go back, and if I clear this, then the sides I want to add together are 2x plus 1 plus 5x plus 2. Those were the two sides. But remember, we said that there was another 2x plus 1 on the right-hand side, and there was also a 5x plus 2 on the top of the question. Now, for perimeter, you just add all the sides together. So it says when I add all these sides together, I actually get an answer of 90. So if I go back now and put equals 90, whoops, unfortunately I just deleted everything by accident, so I'm going to have to put these all back in again. Plus parentheses 2x plus 1. And notice I'm putting parentheses on these questions as well, even though it didn't in the original one, just to try and guarantee that I get the right answer. There's my vertical line straight away. There's my answer 6. And that would be pretty easy to check. So when we're using Desmos, just remember, always use X. If you don't see that vertical line, try zooming out first. But if you still don't see it, then you might just have to enter them on separate lines and figure out if it's no solution or infinite solution. And as this video shows, this is significantly easier than if you're trying to do this by hand. So going forward, you'll always want to try and use Desmos when you've got an equation to solve.